Hey guys, I hope you're well. It's this time again. These days are flying by. My name is Nat Rich. As you will know, this is the Talkwoods. And tonight I am joined by a very good friend of mine, one of my inner circle, Matt Brassington. How are you, Matt?
I'm all right, thank you, Nat. Thanks for having me along.
No problems at all. This is a good conversation tonight, and one we've been planning to have for some time on air. The last time I had a chat like this on air was with Steph Timanti, which I believe you watched as well. And yeah, we cried for a bit because it's raw and it's emotional and it's real and it's a talkward, which is an awkward talk about things that truly matter. And I want you to know that I love you. And I'm so proud of you for doing this. And you are one of my really close friends. And I'm honored that you feel that you can have this conversation on air with me. We have notes because usually I don't do any planning for shows, but this is a very raw subject and I wanted to make sure that we go at it from the right angle. Because that's what matters to you most. It's your story and I'm giving you the opportunity to tell it this evening. And I think it's going to relate to a lot of people. And before I kind of go into you a little bit, I just want to say to people who are watching, the essence of everything, of me showing up at 7 o'clock every night, is about being there for other people and also fulfilling my own needs of connection and showing up every night. We're all at home, we're all on our own, or some of us aren't on our own, but we still feel very apart from people. And I wanted to create this space where we can really connect and that we can talk to people and we can just all be tuned into the same thing. And tonight is a bit of a raw story. It's going to be about Matt's version of life that he's been living and the time when he almost ended it and checked out of planet Earth, which sounds great to some people right now, but I promise you, after listening to this story, there is a positive ending on the other side. And there's a reason that we're telling this. So please, if you want to make any comments, do so. Be polite as always. If you are struggling, we'll do our best to support you and facilitate on any answers if we can. But it's just going to be an awkward talk with one of my besties. And welcome, Matt, to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I don't know any other way to have you other than to explain this show and to kind of dive in deep.
Yeah.
First of all, do you want to tell the viewers why you felt like sharing this and what the driving factor is?
Yeah, I think it's as a man, I've lived most of my life internalizing my feelings. You know, I come from quite a hard background. I spent a long time in the armed forces. I've also done quite rough and ready jobs since leaving the army, being a bodyguard and stuff like that. So I've actually had this perception that I was invincible, you know, and I couldn't be hurt. And, you know, I've gone through most of my life being quite blasé about some of the topics that we're going to talk about, some of the things that actually trip me up, actually. And, you know, I've come from a place where I was quite happy-go-lucky, a bit of a clown, not a care in the world, you know, this talk about invincibility, just suddenly being hit one day and, you know, like the breath being taken out of me and going from this place of euphoria up here to absolute despair and, you know, deciding to possibly take, you know, the final decision. And it's from this catalogue of events that happened over the last, so 1.5 years, I think, since that, you know, that day down in the ministry, been on quite a roller coaster, and I'd like to share it because it's, you know, I think it's important that people realise that it can happen at any time, can happen to anyone, and more importantly, it can be triggered when you least expect it. When you're actually at your best, you can just fall.
Yeah, you can indeed. And I want to congratulate you on your courage, because we've had, we have talkwoods all the time. Everybody knows me for having deep conversations. That's what that's my tagline. And we've had many a conversation that has come up over the last year that has gone back to the point of where you thought about taking your own life, because it's not just one area of your life. It was connected to so many areas of your life, which we will go into here with the kind of list of where it went, because I want to show people that it affects every part of your life, and you can't really try and find a place to hold on to it when it feels like everything's gone. So I wanted to kind of put the headings on what we're going to kind of over discuss today. I think we're going to go on for a long one, but we can definitely go on this. But there was some notes that Matt made. I asked him to put together an idea of kind of how he felt about the situation, just so he could get it out of his own head and onto paper. And he came up with a list, which goes like this. There's a fallout with a best friend. There was a loss of a great friendship. Another one. There was accusations of drug taking and selling. There was poisonous friends and their comments. His mum's got dementia. So there was a lot of child abuse around that was actually forgotten. So he couldn't do the healing part on that, essentially, with his mum. There was obviously the lockdown. He created some goodbye videos for the kids before he decided he wanted to take his own, as he was deciding to take his own life. There was then a loss of a job, spiraling depression and lack of self-worth, drug abuse, speed, amphetamines, weight loss, and energy changes. Then things started to take a turn for the better, which we will get onto, but I wanted to concentrate on the spiral. Whether you're spiraling up, spiraling down, you're living, even though sometimes it doesn't feel like you are. And you won't be the only person with this journey, Matt, but it's very particular to each and every person. And this is what we have to honor and respect with everyone, is that what gets them there may not get other people there. And that doesn't make any of it invalid. It makes it all the more interesting, because everyone's got their own story to tell. So I wanted to start, and we're not going to go into names. We're not going to go into too much detail about some of the situations, but I want to do it from a different perspective. So I want you to sit back for me a second, Matt, and I just want you to take a deep breath in, because this is a lot for you. And I want you to know you can say anything. This is a space for you to say whatever you want to say. You don't have to bring any of this to the table. If you choose to not do it now, you can exit. You're not stuck here, but you showing up is you showing up for yourself. And I want you to know that I appreciate you for that.
Okay. Thank you.
So we'll start with we're going to combine the first two, a fallout with a best friend and the loss of a great friendship. And that can happen to lots of people. But how did you feel once that happened to you, and kind of why was it so important to you?
I guess growing up, and this is part, that we're covering a bit, I wasn't very close to my family, my mum or dad. I hadn't spoken to them for quite some years. And, I joined the army, where a lot of people in my situation do. They join the forces to have a family. And these are the guys and girls that they serve with and spend their lives with, and, in all intents and purposes, become their family. So one of these close friends who I've known for like 27 years, just at this time seemed to drift away from me. And, because of what I was going through, the way that I was looking at things, I took that quite personally. And, I began to doubt whether I still knew that person, whether I still knew myself, whether it was me, or whether it was circumstance, and it just goes on from there. And, having not been close to, I guess, my mum and dad, because of the way they were when I was a youngster, I seemed to latch on to certain individuals that almost validate me, if that's the right word to use. They make me feel good, and almost make me feel like I've got a purpose. And when those people disappear, the two people in particular, one was my best friend, and one was a very, very intense and close relationship, when that goes and that isolation starts to surround you in amongst all of what you're going through, you sort of, I blame myself, you know, I began at this point, you blame myself for my parents' abuse, what my friends deserted me, you know, and that's from a relationship point of view, if I'm looking at it, it's very, very much self blame and anger towards myself at this point, you know, and thinking that I'd only ever given kindness and openness and love out to these people, that they were cold, callous, and, you know, they just threw me away like a piece of fucking dirt, you know, and it hurt. You're on mute.
It's just because I wasn't sure if it was background noise, so that was a good point there. There you go. I was saying, when did you realize that level of hurt? Because for a long time you were numb and immune, and you didn't think that you were invincible. What was had you always known that and you just put it down, or was it a realization?
I guess for a lot of my, you know, because friendships come and go, and when you're in this place where, I don't know whether it's being, I don't want to use the word obnoxious, just, you know, full of confidence, you think, nah, it's one of those things. But when you're in a place where you feel vulnerable and insecure, and these people, you know, don't return your calls, don't return a text, you know, you send out a text, you don't get one back. It's those little things that happen in everyday life, but when you're in this place, it's magnified, you know, exponentially, and it's like, wow, yeah, that bloke is throwing me to the curb, that girl's throwing me to the curb, you know, I'm not worthy, when really it's just they might be busy.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? That dark space of like, what did I do wrong? Did I do anything? Or, you know, why are they not messaging me back? It's the mind that takes us there. And we can find so many reasons to validate that negative thought, because we go into this spiral of feeling like we're not worthy in some way. And that's not necessarily true. But that's the first step of a spiral, is the feeling like you're not loved by
this particular two instances. I've always been quite guarded. So when you're not, and when you let your barriers down, when you're trying to give out, and then this happens, the immediate perception is, why fucking bother? Why give yourself out to people if they're going to treat you like this? You know, and it's just, it's weird, because, you know, two different times this could have had different results, but it was just this moment, it was, oh my God, I've never lied, I've never been deceitful, you know, and I just feel like rubbish.
I want to ask you about something you just said there, and I like to go into these areas, because I used to say to myself, when people would annoy me or do something, I used to say, I've been really nice to you, I haven't lied to you, I haven't done anything. And I had to be honest with myself and ask myself, had I actually lied? Maybe it wasn't specific to them at that time, but there were times in my life when I lied, that I had to take ownership of those points, at the same time as trying not to blame others for my situation, and at the same time trying to keep my head above water and find a reason to live. And it just sometimes our reflection with other people, when it's harsh, you know, really harsh, gives us the harsh reflection of ourselves. And that gives you more a reason to take the next step on the spiral down. And I'm so proud of you, because since I've met you, there's been an incredible amount of ownership of your flaws. You called them a few times to me. And when we're on the floor, by the way, we can only get back up. Like, it's great on the floor sometimes, because it's where we need to be sometimes. So I don't look at it as a negative. But you have grown a lot because you've now, and I always make you do this, and I'm sorry I do it, when I always say, oh, look at the other person on the other side, and I always make you look at the full circle of your situation. How do you think, because you're a new Matt, that's what I'm going to call you, is the new Matt today, is a big difference from what you were like before. And some people might still be in that space. How do you feel now, knowing that you have a role to play in a lot of those relationships that cause you so much pain?
I think one of the points you touched on about perhaps lying, and I think that the worst thing that I could be guilty of that I'm trying not to be now is lying to myself. Lying, saying that it's everybody else's problem or everybody else is to blame but me. What have I done wrong? Or you say stuff to people when really the first person you should look at is yourself and kind of go, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a real representation of myself? Because that naturally emanates from you. If you're trying to be honest, don't say something to get something. Just say something because you want to say something. And it's really weird saying that now, but I felt the old me used to not necessarily lie, but used to say things because I wanted a reaction. I wanted a certain reaction. I wanted people to like me, so I'd say something they'd like, as opposed to just saying how I felt. And whilst that doesn't make you popular, you're being true to yourself. So I guess Matt 2.0, a little bit more honest with himself.
Yeah, definitely. And you're more relaxing yourself by doing so, because it's not an effort to be you now.
No.
Whereas before we're all the same. We're putting up that facade, or we're having that experience where we're constantly trying to be something or get something or do something. We're not being us. And that takes energy, man. That's like intense.
Yeah.
So I want to jump on to, and we won't stay here for too long because we've got quite a lot we want to go through, but something I didn't know about you until kind of, I don't know, a good few months in, is when you casually dropped it in the hat, that your mum has dementia. And she doesn't remember anything. And I was just like, I didn't even know your mum had dementia or the trauma or anything. And it kind of came out in a truthful story, but you like slid it into our conversation. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is it. You kind of like just dropped it because you were dealing with it, but I don't know if you knew how to share it. And that was difficult to see because obviously that's one of the worst situations. But can you go into that a little bit for us?
Yeah, I mean, to put some context behind it, my mum's quite small, barely over 5 foot, Asian background. She used to abuse me as a child physically, to the point that, I've been physically marked, scarred, cut, beaten and stuff like that. So as part of this chapter of my life, I wanted answers. I wanted accountability. And I'd gone through some sort of help with Mind, the charity, and God bless them, they're really good at what they do. And I wrote some letters to both of my parents where I'd forgiven them, which takes a lot. Forgiveness takes a hell of a lot. And the response from my mother at that point was that I deserved to be beaten because I was a bad child. And as a 30-something-year-old man, as I was then, I was like, fuck you. No, because I've got my own kids, and I said, you just don't treat anybody like that. You don't treat kids like that. You don't treat anything. And I felt all this anger towards her. So when I found out last year that she got dementia, one of the kids told me, I felt robbed. I felt really robbed because this woman now doesn't remember the immense pain and problems that I can't hold her solely accountable, but she's a contributing factor to a lot of the way that I was. and I felt like I'm never going to get that apology. And it hurt. It really, I mean, that is one of the catalysts in everything that's happened, is that this bitch doesn't remember the pain that she caused a 13, 14-year-old boy. And, she quite casually last year said, was asking me about these tattoos on my arms. I've got tattoos, some Japanese tattoos, and I desperately wanted to tell her, well, actually, those tattoos cover scars that you cut, where you'd cut me and where you'd stab me. And I just, they're things that I look at, knowing that behind all of those angry faces is pain, and that there was this fragile woman in front of me who hadn't got a clue. And, well, I just have to accept that I can't do anything about it.
And that's a deep place to go into, because you feel like the opportunity, like you said, has been taken away from you in order to resolve that situation. But without sounding too spiritual, the work is done inside, and the stuff that we have to go through internally is sometimes even harder to do. So, I find it fascinating how strong you are and how you've been with that, because it's the opportunity was taken, and not many people I know could deal with that. Even though, you're facing the reality of the situation. A lot of people resist reality, and that's where most of the pain comes from. But you've taken that as an opportunity to go, okay, cool. The universe is working in a different way, and I've got to go in a different direction, and I have to look at it a different way. And you've done that, like, almost with ease. I know it hasn't been easy, but it's looked like it has. So I want to say well done on that, because it's astonishing to see that amount of growth in a very short space of time. You really have snapped into this better version of yourself that you used to tell me that you wanted to be. And I'm getting really emotional now, because I'm just thinking about some of our conversations. And I can remember you saying to me that you were like, why is life like this? And I said, because you've asked it to be, and you want to change, and you've asked for a change. So everything that doesn't work for you right now is going to have to leave in order to make space for what does work for you. And your face was like, and you were like being really sarcastic, but you've literally jumped straight into that space of unknown. And that's where the soldier in you, you've been in the army, and that you're all that strength that you've talked about, and that, you've said in before, your strength has come out in a completely different way, because you've stepped into the unknown.
If I'm honest, comes from not being able to protect myself, and having this inside me where I wanted to protect everybody else, whether it be in the army or, as a bodyguard. It's always been about protecting those that couldn't look after themselves. But there's always been this deep underlying thing inside me where I just couldn't protect myself.
Yeah. I'm going to go on to your next point. And I don't know if this was the order. Did they go in the order that you were thinking of them, or the order of the event that happened?
Just so mainly that I thought about them and they happened.
Yeah. So lockdown, which has been an interesting time for all, you especially. You decided when you came to see me at ministry one afternoon, I was bounding around doing my usual thing, and you walked in a completely different energy than you'd ever been before. And I didn't know in full that you'd come to see me, because that was going to be one of the last times that you were going to see me. And I didn't know. And I remember you were talking to me, and I was trying to convince you of something else. And then we went and sat and had a different conversation. And I knew something was up, because I think I was trying to do something with work, wasn't I? And I just completely missed the point. And then you opened up to me. How did you feel coming down to ministry?
that day was quite surreal. Very much happened in autopilot. I remember sitting in a meeting in the morning, just having an overwhelming feeling that I couldn't breathe. That there was a pressure on my chest, and felt really claustrophobic, and my head was spinning, and I needed to get out of there. And I remember leaving there, and I just had so much going through my head. It's like everything that I'd repressed for God knows how many years, just, it was all swirling around, and it was like I could see it in front of my face, and it hurt. It hurt my head, and I had terrible migraine, and I was like, I just want to sleep. I just don't. That's it. I've had enough. And I remember on my way to you, I sent 2 text messages, one to my mother and one to my father, and just saying, look, you win. It's I've had enough. Don't be absent from the kid's life. Make sure you're there more than you were for me, well, stuff like that. And I came to see you because I needed to see you before I was going to do what I was going to do.
Well, I'm glad that you did. I'm really glad that you did. And I remember seeing so much stress on your face, and I didn't know what it was, and you were trying to explain to me. I remember just sitting there looking at you, not really knowing what was going on. And I'm not a therapist, and I don't proclaim to be, but I knew you needed help. And you worried me that day. And I can't even remember much of the conversation. It was just more of a feeling experience. But then was it that night that you went home and recorded the videos?
Yeah, pretty much. I sort of already had in my mind what I needed to do, and there was more that happened that evening, but I recorded the videos because I didn't want anybody to think that they were to blame. I just wanted to check out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
And when we say recording the videos, he recorded the videos to his kids, to explain the situation and to do what he felt was necessary. But luckily, you didn't need to use those. But can I ask you kind of what made you decide to live? What was it that kept you going?
Oh my God. I mean, it happened. One of them, and I don't want to say which one because it's a hell of a burden for them to have.
Mm-hmm.
I was in maybe the last minutes of before I was going to shut my phone down. I was going through some pictures, and I was prepped. I was ready to go. I'm quite methodical like that, and I just went to switch my phone off, and I received a text message. And in the back of my mind, I was like, you can't. You're not hurting you. You're hurting them. And wherever you think you are in your life, things could always be worse. From where I was, I felt that I had failed them. And there was a part of me that was like, no, you need to make them proud. And you need to do that from a place of strength. So wherever you are right now, pick that point in the future, you fucking get there. Because these are the only 2 people that matter. Nothing else matters in the world. So that was a catalyst for that.
Well, to whichever one it was, good on you. I've met both of your kids and they're both fabulous. Really well brought up kids from you and your ex-partner. There's some magic there in both of them. And I can see why you stayed. Very much so. After that decision of staying, I'd love to say that it got magically better. It didn't. As life always does take another curveball. You lost your job.
Yeah. Middle of lockdown.
Which was tough. Really tough.
I lost a purpose. You know, you gain one and then you lose it. You know, this particular time that I'm drowning. And you know when you come up and you get some air, but then you get hit by another wave and you go back down. And all you are doing is surviving every wave.
Mm-hmm.
And you are still drowning. You are not floating at this point. You are drowning because with every breath you take, you exhaust that air supply and then you get hit again. And this is what was happening at this point. This particular 6 months to 8 months was wave after wave after wave. And that's how it felt, you know, and you kind of go, oh, fuck it, give me a break. But losing the job, you know, you're at home, you're on your own, you're feeling isolated, and then you lose your job. You lose your livelihood, your reason to get up in the morning, you know, your worth has gone.
Yeah. It's what you think has gone. I understand why you think that, and we've talked about this before, realizing that your worth is somewhere else.
Yeah.
But sometimes you do have to lose what your identity is wrapped up in order to be able to see what is really there. And, you know, one of the biggest things for me that I've noticed with myself is I used to earn a lot of money when I was younger, always spending, always doing things I shouldn't be doing, but always made it financially. And then there was a period in my life where I stopped earning money. And I used to really struggle and be like, why, you know, and it was, my identity was wrapped up in false things like, you know, Ibiza holidays and like nights out and weekends. And when I had no money and I had nothing else, I started to realize who I was without money, and I needed to improve in many ways. And I know that by my own reflection of not having money, like I can do life skin. If I'm skin for the rest of my life, I'm good skin. I can do skin very well. Like it doesn't define who I am. And I remember, I think you also coming to that realization that you're not your money and you weren't your job at the train, you know, the train company. And I think that light for you started realizing that there's something else that you are, and it has nothing to do with the train job you had. You look like a train driver with your hat on today. But you then went into drug use to try and avoid the feelings that were coming up for you. A few times I called you and I was like, and you were talking to me. And I was like, something's not right here. And you hated the fact that I called it. You were trying to hide on the phone. But do you want to tell us a little bit about that and kind of where that got you?
Well, you know, I've never been impressed by drugs. You know, being in the forces and, you know, even being in, you know, the music industry, like being surrounded by it, it's just didn't float my boat. But then it started off really innocent, all of this spiral with the drugs. It was Red Bull. It was laying in bed at night, thoughts whirring through my head in the dark and thinking, and I just couldn't sleep. So I thought, right, I don't want to sleep, don't want to be alone in the dark. I'd rather not sleep. So first, you know, I was taking started with Red Bull and then went on to amphetamines. And, you know, by the height of this, cocaine, grams and grams and grams. Honestly, I can remember watching TV one night, then going onto the computer to, you know, look at an old Facebook account, look at pictures, and meanwhile, you know, I had a drink there and Coke, and next thing I knew, 9:30 in the morning, gone through the night, and that just days and nights just merge into one. And, you know, I've spent so long hiding from that aloneness at night time. And, you know, whilst not realizing that all of these chemicals in my body were bringing out a lot of hate, a lot of revenge, a lot, you know, I was going through that toxic part now where I'm blaming everybody else. But do you know what? It's fucked up. It really is. Because, you know, I'm drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. You know, how stupid is that? You know, it's me poisoning my own body because I blamed everybody else. Yet it wasn't doing a single thing to them because nobody knew. Nobody knew, nobody cared. And they shouldn't. It's not their problem. You know, it was me damaging me whilst blaming everybody else.
Yeah. I think noticing that, I remember when I'd not called you. I think I'd called you. No, sorry, I'd called you, and I remember your response being like, "Oh, you've called me." I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And you were like, "Oh, I don't know. I just didn't think you'd call me." I was thinking, I'm your mate. Why would I not call you? And that really helped me to see where you were without me knowing the full depths of it. Because there'd been a few times when I called you and I knew that you'd been taking coke and I'd been pointing it out. But once I'd put the phone down, you know, I had got on with my life and I'd done other things. But your sheer response of surprise, the fact that I'd called you, made me think that there's something else here and that there's a different level of loneliness that you must be feeling to be surprised by a friend calling you. Yeah. And it's just a call. And I think we stayed on the phone for ages that night, but you were like, it was thirsty for you to have that connection. And I think a lot of people, we don't call, we WhatsApp. And it's not personal.
No. A text message doesn't convey that. And you know what? It's really interesting what you said. You know, like your phone call caught me out of the blue. It was, you know, wow. You know, it was 2, 3, 4. You know, however long it was. But it's another moment in your life, Matt, that you just rung a friend, but to that other person on the other side of the phone made a world of difference. And all I can say to anybody who's in, you know, being in the position where I am, your phone makes outgoing calls as well. Pick it up, speak to a friend, because they might not know. And you know what? Just say, you know, simple as right in our bed. You know, if you got a pal that you haven't spoken to, just chat, because you sometimes don't realize how much the receiver of a phone call needs that call.
Yeah. I feel like, you know, having just come off WhatsApp, which by the way is fucking ace, not having WhatsApp, I am so needing to get that hoodie and t-shirt and promote it more. It's incredible. But not having WhatsApp is so refreshing. And I don't feel, because I said to Becky this morning, who was also watching, we were saying it's really nice to actually text or call, you know, like go back to the old fashioned text message or a call, because it's not instant. Instant messaging causes anxiety, and you've seen whether things have been read or not, or, you know, what's going on. And if somebody's read something and then they haven't replied to you, you start going into a mind thing thinking, why have they not replied? What are they doing? That causes so much anxiety just because it's instant. But receiving calls for the last couple of days has been like, hey, how you doing? Yeah, cool. No worries. Nice to hear someone's voice. Nice to quickly chat. And then they go. And it's so good.
It's weird sometimes, because you're like, what the fuck is that? And your phone's ringing, and you go, why are they ringing me? You know, and the number of times you've rung me, and I thought, oh God, what's she want?
You always say that. What do you want now? And I'm like, I'm going to stop calling.
But you know, it's not a message, and it's lovely to hear someone's voice, and you have a very beautiful way of telling people that you love them before you hang it up, and that's just, you know, Scott Mills used to do it on Radio 1, but do you know what? It's really nice. You know, once in a while, it's lovely to say to somebody, yeah.
I'm like, love you, bye. I say it to people. I literally, even I've booked a couple of people on the show this week, and when I've got off the phone, I'm like, all right, love you, bye. And I do, like, I enjoy that interaction and that connection, and I don't feel like there's any reason not to love someone, not love someone. Sorry. And for me, it's warming when you say it as well, and I feel like it's so important. It might sound a bit weird, but like I love saying that at the end of a phone call, and it also means that you matter, because you do. I wouldn't be calling you if you didn't matter to me, you know, and I wouldn't be like texting people and responding to people. And there's one thing, there's another side of what you're going through right now, is that there's been many a times when I know you've not wanted to feel like a burden to someone, giving them your problems. And that is a big part of it, because we feel like we're going to be too much for the other person. And then that makes us avoid the call altogether. And that's not necessarily true. That's a mind trick that can happen to help us stay lonely. You know, it wants to be in control. Our mind wants to keep us in this fear state. So it says, oh, you can't call that person. You'll just burden them. And then you never do, which you are responsible for.
Yes.
There's a part of your journey that has been transformed because of your ability to be a great dad, and because of your kind of renewed love of being a dad as well, like having a different kind of relationship with your children because you've got a more honest relationship with them. And that's because you've got a more honest relationship with yourself in order for you to be able to do that with your kids. That most people wouldn't want to be on a show talking about their darkest gremlins and admitting their cocaine and all that when their kids are watching, and they probably are right now.
They will inevitably listen. But there's some key messages that come out of this. I'm not superhuman. And that's the first thing anybody needs to spell about themselves. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have flaws. Because when you tell your kids that, they realize it's okay also for them not to be brilliant. And when I admitted to both of the kids that I was in a bad place, I was unemployed, I was skiing, blah, 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 their reaction blew me away. And this is the whole, falling in love with being a dad again. It's just, they were so compassionate, so supporting. Say, well, we don't need money. All we need is each other. And do you know what? It's like, wow, out in the mouth of babes, you kind of go, doesn't matter what shit you're going through, this is what matters, and yeah, it was telling my children I'm not as tough as they probably thought I was probably one of the most liberating and connecting things that I think I've ever done with anybody. Wow.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Whoop their ass there. I mean,
I don't know. Emily's quite strong. I haven't seen Oliver fight, but I can imagine Emily. She's absolute rascal. I love it. And I want to talk, and I want to give appreciation to your wonderful Elaine.
Yeah.
Because Elaine, do you want to explain who Elaine is in your life?
Elaine's my ex-wife, somebody who I met at the wrong time in my life when I wasn't the right person for her, when I was quite the opposite of the person I am today, hopefully. And she had shown me nothing but love, and in return I gave her hell. and I was horrible. But over the last couple of years, we've fallen out. We've been to some very dark places. But in the midst of all of this, she's the one person that I did not expect to come forward. Her and a wonderful partner, Mark. The compassion and kindness from what I would call the enemy was unbelievable. Last person I would have expected. She's been instrumental in the support on the upward journey with the kids, and more so, it's really nice. It's out of that darkness that something beautiful is coming. I went to spend the evening with them last night to finally put some skeletons to bed, or whatever the phrase is, and we had a lovely evening. And those two, Mark, who's a partner, they've shown so much kindness. It brought a tear to my eye last night, and cried for ages. But I was just like, I could feel the warmth, and that was kind of nice to say. I'm reaching a milestone in my own recovery. That's quite good.
I love it. And I love the honesty and the fact that you can admit that, because a lot of people wouldn't go there with their ex, or wouldn't allow their ex to be seen in such a beautiful light as well, because we like to do the revenge. But you've nailed it on that. And I was really not surprised to see this, because I can't really say that being your friend, there's been loads of slagging off of Elaine. It's, to be honest, very rarely mentioned, because I feel like you knew your role before, so you couldn't really kind of blame her now, and you've never been really that derogatory, if at all, regarding Elaine. So this ownership part on here really made me smile, because it felt something. It was a surprise to me.
Well, it's not for me to badmouth the mother of my children.
Yeah.
To anybody. She is a fantastic mother. We just wasn't suited. So, I'm not going to badmouth her to anybody. And I'm very sure that she doesn't do the same. We've brought up two wonderful crazies, and she has them 98% of the time.
Yeah.
So, if she's not getting an MBE at some point, I'd be very surprised, because you've spent 2 days with them, in a typical weekend. And, Emily's supersonic, and, she has batteries made by Tesla. She must have, but she doesn't stop. Whereas Elaine has this.
She reminds me of me when I was a kid. She's beautiful. I want to move on before we kind of close for the show, and I want to just, obviously you've got a new job now, which is great, and it's given you a whole new kind of sense of purpose, but not attachment to it, which I might add, which is great. But you put here, I'm going to read this out and then we can discuss it briefly. But you put realization that I'm hurting myself only, like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. Making a promise to myself to be the better person, learning that being good is not by doing good. It's about showing the good that is already in me. Each morning, talking to a pic of the kids, making me pledge to make them proud. I'm starting each day by making my bed, which is the first task. The mind map of my route to a better me is health, happiness, success, and wealth. And this is a list that you've devised yourself. So I'm going to skim over it, and then we can talk about why this came in and obviously where you are now. I see the difference, but obviously people don't know you yet. So number 1 was a balanced diet. I think we're still working on that, actually. When I come to your house, all we do is eat fish and chips and takeaway. So we need to change that bit. Maybe that's my problem and you've solved it. But other than that, balanced diet, staying off the drugs, no midweek drinking, spending more time with the kids, keep in touch with friends, get more sun outside time if you can. Sorry, Boris, but we've got to do it. Get into employment properly, build on your qualifications, enhance your communication and your leadership skills, invest in a pension, save a percentage of your wages, and avoid toxic people. So, there's a few more here. Self-love before dating, which I think is an A game one to go for. Build a relationship with my family, build a relationship with friends, run 3 times a week, reach 89K weights, and train 3 times a week, and run 10K by March 2021. So, how are you getting on with your list?
Well, I'm midway through dry January.
Yeah.
Probably the worst time to have this interview.
There's always a good time for a nat chat. It's never a bad time.
I'm probably not investing in a pension, but I'm investing in myself, which is going to have far better dividends. Well, since being in full-time employment, I've stopped all the drugs a long time ago. All of this came about August, September time during a walk, and I think to put some context around it, I spent hours and hours out walking, talking to myself and telling myself off. It's quite weird being in the middle of the countryside, sort of almost giving yourself therapy, where you're basically saying, this is what you should do. Well, why should I do it? And honestly, I've lost hours, and this is where it all came from. And I took a notebook out and I thought, right, I need to start from the inside of me and work outwards. So look after myself healthy, my mind, get the right food into me, and start building on really valuable relationships. Now, when I say relationships, the ones that actually matter, and it was I did quite an extensive list, and if anybody has an opportunity to do this, it's quite a fun exercise. It's called 2 Beers and a Puppy. I think, it's quite well known. It's about, you've got to list all the friends that you'd have 2 beers with and who you'd let look after your puppy, and how that all splits down your friends will determine whether they're good friends or, they're just acquaintances. So I did all of that, and I built this mind map, which became a screensaver. And yeah, I make my bed every day because I think that's the most important task. Get out, make your bed, and then everything else bite-sized chunks throughout the day. And at the end of the day, if you have a shit day, got a nice bed to get into. So
I love the 2 beers and a puppy. Where do you even hear that? I remember when you told me, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to do this.
I found it online, and I think if you have 2 beers with somebody, but you wouldn't let them look after your puppy, that means that they're okay to go out with, but you don't really trust them. If you let them look after your puppy, but you wouldn't go for a drink with them, it means that they're boring but reliable, and your really good friends are the ones that you go out and get smashed with, but look after your dog. And I substituted puppy with children. So
that's a good one. So for those at home, if you want to just play that back and do that challenge, that might cut some slack out of life. It might give you a really good, clean perspective on who deserves your time and who you really need to be having around you in this crazy world that we live in right now, because it is batshit crazy and everything is being challenged. I will say it every night that that great rug that we swept everything under has gone for a walk, and everything we have been avoiding is now here to be seen, to be felt, and to be understood. And you have been sweeping under the rug for a couple of years now, Matt.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you. Come so far. And it's your ability to be honest as well.
And it's also one of your talk points, if I'm honest, because what's key in all of this on your route back up, don't get rid of one addiction and get another. So if you're going to give up smoking, give up drinking. If you're going to give up drinking, give up porn, give up drugs, give up negativity, give up all of that shit, and then start afresh. And do you know what? If you want a beer at the weekend, have a beer at the weekend. But do you know what? Don't substitute one for the other, because you never break free.
No, it's a cycle. A really crap one, but it's a cycle. So, Matt, for anybody that's listening to this or watching it, what would you say from a man that has been in this situation and that has understood what you've understood and felt what you felt? What do you feel that you can say to somebody who may be either on the brink, in that, just coming out of it, or somewhere along that timeline that you gladly shared with us?
I think that people need to accept that things are going to go wrong. Things do go wrong in life, and that's not the be all and end all. I hit rock bottom, and we've talked this evening that I nearly took that ultimate step. What you've got to do is stop short of that last step and reach out to somebody. Anybody, could be me, could be Nat, could be any of these signposted charities, and just tell somebody you're having a bad time, because you'd be surprised how many people are in a similar situation or have had that wobble in their life. And if you feel like you can't do any more, give it a day, one day. But in that time, reach out to people, do everything you can. And do you know what? It will completely change your perspective, because there's always a solution. Just telling somebody that you don't feel brilliant eases a little bit of the burden off yourself. You're not putting it onto someone else, but they can often rationalize better than you can at this present moment, and they could save your life.
Mm-hmm. They could. And I want to add to that when you do start giving up these addictions, or you start realizing that you have them and what they are, whether it's, social media, drama, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, what's behind those addictions is a story that you have been telling yourself for some time. And you can rewrite your story at any time. You can add new characters. You can take characters out. You can change the direction of which the book is going to go into, and you can scrap it and completely start again. And you are in that much control of your life. And it may feel like things are permanent. Everything changes.
I think one of the key things as well, and I mean, you're the biggest advocate I know of this, get the fuck off social media, honestly.
not YouTube, not YouTube.
No. Even if it's, I did this for a week and I advise people that I work with to do it for a week, the world doesn't change. Although you might fall out of touch with what's happening with Trump or what's the latest thing with COVID. I came off Facebook, and unfortunately I'm not posting on Instagram. I felt so much better, because what I'm not doing is importing everybody else's shit into my life. I'm being present in my own life, and I'm inviting the people that I want into my life. And also I've got that capacity within my own life to go into somebody else's. So whilst I'm not checking my phone, I'm checking in with someone. And, whether it be just interrupting a busy business meeting like I did this week to just have a 5-minute FaceTime with Emily so she could show me a hamster. Do you know what? That's the shit that matters. Not who's following who's doing what. Get off social media, get away from toxic people, and just show yourself a little bit of love. 5 to 10 minutes a day, easy.
I love that. So true. And yes, I am a big advocate of being off social media. I love having a YouTube now, but it's because I've only got one channel. It's not like multiple notifications coming into my life. So I want to say thank you to everyone that's watching the show today. Matt, you have been honest and powerful and lovely and adorable and vulnerable and open and honest, and all the reasons that I love you. And I want to thank you. And, I dropped this on you yesterday. Was it yesterday or today? No, today.
Last night, about 11 o'clock.
Last night. This was meant to be about gaming, addictions to gaming. And me and Bryony just didn't do enough work to get our gamers on the show. And I was just like, I'm going to scrap it and ask Matt if he wants to come on and do that talk we've been playing with the idea of. And here we are. You smashed it. Well done. How do you feel?
I feel happy that I'm able to share with people. And I hope this, if anything, starts a conversation. If just two people are either listening to this or, watching this, have a conversation, that's a start. And, that's often the start of any of these problems getting eradicated. It's just talking about it. Get away from that stigma that men should be resilient and, internalize what they're thinking, because you know me, I can handle my own, and this broadsided me, completely knocked me off my feet. It doesn't matter how physically tough you are, how harsh you are, confident you are. This attacks you in so many places, and I think it's really important that people should talk more about it. Take away that stigma that has been involved, and just make some fun. Have fun, smile. Fuck this COVID. If anything, it just gives us an opportunity to pick up the phone and talk to our friends and family and just concentrate on what matters.
Yeah.
Oh, and Dean, thank you very much for listening.
Yeah, we've had some,
Diana.
Yeah, we've had some lovely comments from
really
people. You'll probably be able to read back through all of those. And I love doing these shows. I really do, and I'm being disciplined, and I'm showing up every night. And I don't have anything else to do. Basically, Boris has blocked my diary for a long time, and as he has with everyone else's. And I just feel like showing up and having these conversations with people like you, Matt, it enriches my life in many ways. And I know you'll be like, oh really, but you do. I love our authentic common conversations that we have about everything, because it's not just one thing. These the commonality between everything, we go way down the rabbit hole. It's beautiful. But I want to say to everyone, I'm co-hosting a channel on a brilliant kind of big day on the 31st of January. It's called the Great Connection Festival with my friend Adam. It's all about this kind of stuff and tapping into who you really are and digging into your feelings and really reconnecting. There's loads of cool stuff. There's yoga, there's music, there's deeper conversations, and there's loads of cool ideas. So there's a link in the description below if you want to check that out. I have had a Telegram channel for a long time on Telegram, but now everyone's jumped on it because they're off WhatsApp. I'm just recruiting more people. If you want to reach out, I'm going to post the shows in there and a few other bits and pieces, kind of behind the scenes of what I'm up to, and kind of reaching out. If anybody wants to connect on there, you can do so at the bottom. It's been wiggling along the bottom. Matt, if anybody wants to reach you and reach out and say something, where do they go? What do they do?
Well, firstly, they get in touch with you. So if anybody wants to talk to me,
am I going to be your filter? Am I your receptionist?
I say I'm not on social media, but I am on. You can Google Olem _DJ. All my links are on my link tree. By all means, get in touch with I Am Sound. But I'm here to talk, and I'm by no means an expert, but I've got a set of ears, and all it would take is somebody to ring me and say, I want to talk about, and all you'd get from me is, I want to listen. Because I think that's really important, that we just listen to each other. Not listen to talk, but just listen to understand. And if I can have an opportunity to just say thank you to a couple of people who've put comments in here, like Dav, William, Rebecca, Diana again, William, Hassan, all of you have made this evening so much more fulfilling for me, because you've shown me a bit of love, and I've been really nervous about this.
Oh yes, you have.
You're one of my best friends now, and there's nothing that we can't talk about. Sometimes really inappropriate, but talking about something that's really deep and personal to me has helped. And I'd really like to help somebody else if I can, pay it forward, as they say.
Indeed. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that need a chat. They can have a Matt chat instead of a Nat chat this time.
Yeah.
It'll be Mattflix instead of Netflix. Love it. I thank you so much for everyone that is watching and supported me. I am back on tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow, I believe, I should know what's on tomorrow. What is on tomorrow, Matt? Do you know? Why would you know?
Doing your gaming thing tomorrow?
No, gaming, I couldn't, we didn't get our asses in gear around gaming, so we put that one. So we've got money talks tomorrow. The vulnerability about money, the awkwardness around it. I've lived in that awkwardness for a very long time. Owning up. What I want to do tomorrow is answer any questions as well. I actually solved quite a lot of my money issues by my sheer discipline and attention and geeking out and making it into a bit of a workshop, which I then held at the beginning of COVID, and helping people face their finances, which is the most awkward shit in the world because it's attached to your self-worth, or so you tell yourself, which it isn't. But I've been there with that t-shirt. So if I can offer any help on that, I'm going to have some awkward conversations around that. And I've got a little bit of space on that. If anybody that's watching fancies joining me tomorrow on air, like, why not just reach out and let's talk shit about money. And then on Saturday nights, if you're not going out to a rave, which I'm sure you're not, or for a dinner somewhere, we've got Where's Your Head At? And I've got my friend Danny on. I've got Joanna, who's doing a really cool thing with alcohol, like staying off alcohol for 60 days in a big group of her. And I've got Joel back as well. So every Saturday night, we're just going into that. And then on Sunday, we have an amazing night, which is sound and energy. And I have Jonathan Goldman with me, who is an amazing sound healer. And he's talking about how we can use humming to improve our lives, which is going to be weird because we'll be able to try it as well. And I just want to say, I haven't got it in right now. I've got a new brace. It's like one of those Invisalign things. And I put it on and I cut all my tongue today. So when I've been talking, I think I sound like I've got a lisp a little bit because my tongue really hurts. I've got like all this inside. So if it has sounded a bit weird, I'm sorry, but that's just my self-conscious being like, oh my God, my tongue really hurts. But we'll be humming on Monday. So that'll make it even better, apparently. And somebody's put, I like the thumb and title. Thumb. Where's the thumb? Do you know what she's talking about, Matt?
This one?
Oh, this. I don't know. Is this what you're talking about? I don't know. I'm guessing. She'll message in a second. But we will see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock, same time, and get whoever you want to join it. I'm not sure anybody else is doing anything. Just get more viewers and subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, I'm sure you have. But if you haven't, subscribe. I'm almost at 500 subscribers on my channel, and we're jumping up on I Am Sound as well. So make my day and subscribe. Love you all. Thank you so much. Bye for now.